Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi amma ba'du. Today, inshallah azza wa jal, we're going to discuss another very important aspect of the deen of Allah azza wa jal, and it is concerning the Awliya of Allah, the saints, the Awliya, the friends of Allah azza wa jal. Who's a wali and who's not a wali? And what's the correct way that we're supposed to look at this issue? Like every other issue in the deen, especially the issues that are connected to the aqidah of the Muslim, we have to be in the middle and we have to do our best. It is wajib, lazim, it's an obligation upon us to understand that particular thing in the way that Allah wants it to be understood. We understand that particular thing the way the Prophet ﷺ intended, the way he articulated it. The names and attributes of Allah, we understand them the way Allah wants us to understand them, not the way we want to, or this one or that one. Many ayat of the Quran, Allah Ta'ala has negated that the religion or the truth is based upon the whims and the desires of Bani Adam or the jinn. He said in the Quran, لَيْسَ بِأَمَانِيِّكُمْ وَلَا أَمَانِيِّ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. This religion, the truth, is not based upon your whims, your desires, and it's not based upon the whims and desires of Ahlul Kitab. Our religion is not based on empty slogans. It's not based upon how many people are saying a thing or doing a thing. It's based upon what is supported in the text, in the Nusus, the Kitab and the Sunnah. So in this particular issue, the issue of the Awliya of Allah, who's a wali, there's a lot of khurafat going on in our community here in Birmingham these days. We have a sheikh that has come from Africa, and he's spreading all kinds of shirk, and he's spreading kufr, and he's spreading innovation. And the West African community where he comes from, they see that man as being a wali from the Awliya of Allah. Although he's teaching shirk, kufr, he's teaching innovation. So when we talk about this wali and the wilaya, there are a lot of things that we want to discuss. First of all, concerning the name wali. Wali is one of the names of Allah. You are Abdul Wali. Allah is the wali, the protector, the one who takes care of something or someone. So concerning this wilaya of Allah, there are two types of wilaya. Two types. The first one is that Allah Ta'ala is the wali of everybody. Muslim, kafir, white, black, the one with taqwa, the one without any taqwa. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the wali of all of Bani Adam. He mentioned in the Quran, in a number of ayat, what proves that. حتى إذا جاء أحدكم الموت توفته رسلنا وهم لا يفرطون ثم ردوا إلى الله مولاهم الحق. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned when death comes to one of them, Bani Adam, when death comes to any one of them, any and every one of them, our messengers, the angels of death, the angel of death comes, takes his soul, and then those angels of death, the messengers of Allah, they won't fall short of their responsibility in taking his soul. His soul is going to be taken when it's supposed to be taken, in the way that it's supposed to be taken. Allah said after that happens, they all will be returned back to Allah, their Mawla. They will be returned to Allah, their Mawla, who is the Haqq, their Wali. So this ayah goes to show the general wilaya, that Allah is the Wali of every human being. It's like Allah is the Rabb of every human being, the Khaliq of every human being. But then the second type of wilaya of Allah Ta'ala is the wilaya that is special. The special divine protection that Allah gives to an individual. And he only gives that to the people who have iman and the people who have taqwa, the people who have al-Islam. As for the other people, he doesn't give them that type of protection. He, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, mentioned in the Quran, Allahu waliyul ladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. Allah is the wali of those people who believe. He takes them from the depths of darkness and he puts them to the light, He puts them into the light of Islam. So that's the first point that we want to mention, Ikhwani, that in terms of the wilaya of Allah, Allah being the wali, He's the wali of everybody. He's the Rabbul Alameen of everybody. He's the Raziq of everybody. But there's another type of wilaya, which is the wilaya that is specific. He is the protector of those who believes. And that's similar to the ma'iyah of Allah. Allah being with someone. Allah is with everyone. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. He's with you wherever you are. Muslim, non-Muslim, jinn, malaika, He's with you wherever you are. But then there's another ma'iyah that is specific. Allah is with those who have taqwa. Allah is with you in terms like when the Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to Abu Bakr when he was in the cave, La takhaf inna Allah ma'ana. Don't worry, Abu Bakr, while you're in the cave and the kuffar looking for us, Allah is with us, meaning with us special in that He's going to protect us and take care of us. So that's the first issue, that Allah is the wali and His wilaya is specific, and He has one that is general. Second issue about the wilaya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that the Quran, it makes clear for us who the awliya of Allah are. He said in the Quran, Inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. Verily the awliya of Allah, they will not be afraid and they will not be sad. They are those people who they have iman and they have a taqwa. So those are two characteristics that the individual has to have in order to be a wali from the awliya of Allah. He has to have an iman and he has to have a taqwa. And for that reason, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he explained that each and every individual in this room can be a wali from the awliya of Allah. And this is one of the important things I want to bring to your attention. In our community, the way we understand this religion, some of us think that the saint is some guy who, when he speaks, nur comes out of his mouth and nur comes out of his eyes and his ears. He's glowing in the dark. He's a saint. That's not a wali. A wali is not someone special who can fly around in the sky. Any and everyone sitting here can be a wali from the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal. Any and everyone. The lady, the woman, she can be a waliya from the awliya of Allah. So get it out of your head that the wali, the saint, is someone who has some special clothes. In Egypt, there's a university there called Al-Azhar, Al-Sharif. The shuyukh who teach there, who graduate from there, they wear a special type of thobe, a coat, and so forth and so on. When the person sees him, they say, hey, Mawlaya, my Mawla, like he's a wali automatically. The wali of Allah, he doesn't have any special clothes, no special slogans. He doesn't have something special in his body. The one who has long hair, some people understand this. If you see a person with long hair, it's an indication that he's a mujahid. He's someone, he's a wali from the awliya. The awliya of Allah, not like that. They're any and every individual. You, me, anyone. And everyone has to make it his business to struggle and strive to be a wali from the awliya of Allah, as opposed to sitting back saying he's a saint, so you pay him money and you ask for his dua. From what we have received in the way of revelation from the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that proves his point is the hadith that's been collected by Imam Bukhari and it's on the narration and the authority of Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu. It's in the 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. For those of you who want to go back, hadith number 38. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the hadith al-Qudsi, Man adali waliyan faqad adhantuhu bil harb. Anyone who is in opposition and he has a confrontation with one of my saints, with a wali of mine, then I have declared war on that individual. And then the Prophet said that Allah went on to describe who the wali is. He established anyone who is in conflict with one of Allah's awliya, then Allah declares war on that individual. And then he went on to describe the awliya with two descriptions. And anyone can be from the awliya. The hadith said, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُ عَلَيْهِ. My slave from the awliya, they don't get closer to me, make a taqarrub, to come close to me with anything more beloved to me than what I made wajib upon him. So the wali is the one who does the wajibat. And then he mentioned the second description. Allah Ta'ala mentioned, وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ حَتَّى أُحِبُّهُ وَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ كُنْتُ سَمْعُهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهَا وَبَصَرُهُ الَّذِي يُبْصِرُ بِهَا وَيَدُهُ الَّتِي يَبْتِشُ بِهَا وَرِجْلُهُ الَّتِي يَمْشِي بِهَا. And if my slave does the nawafil, not the wajib, the sunan, if he does a lot of that, the more that he does, the closer he'll get to me. And then I'll start to love him. And then if I love him, I'll become the hearing by which he hears, the sight by which he sees, the hand by which he strikes, and the feet by which he walks. And then the end of the hadith, showing the virtues of being a wali from the awliya of Allah, he said, Tabarak wa ta'ala, وَلَئِن سَأَلَنِي لَأُعْطِيَنَّهُ وَلَئِنْ اسْتَعَاذَنِي لَأُعِيذَنَّهُ. And that wali, if he asks me for something, verily I'm going to give it to him. And if he seeks my assistance, verily I'm going to assist him. So very quickly, ikhwani, this hadith, the scholars of Islam call this hadith, Hadith al-Wali. If someone said to you, the proof of that is the Hadith al-Wali. The scholars used to save time. They wouldn't say the whole hadith that I mentioned. They just say the Hadith of Jibreel, the Hadith of As-Sadiq wal-Masduq, the Hadith of the Asif. So because the Muslim is reading, he knows the Hadith al-Wali is this hadith. So Imam al-Shawkani came and he wrote a book in explaining this hadith, and he called it Qatr al-Wali al-Hadith al-Wali. So he explained what is the meaning of Allah becomes the hand by which he strikes, and the feet by which he walks, and the ear by which he hears, and the eyes by which he sees. When we, the Ma'ashar al-Hadith, we say Allah is not like anything and nothing is like unto Allah. But the Prophet said that Allah would become his hearing, his singing, and so forth and so on. Those scholars said the meaning of that is Allah Azza wa Jal, when the person becomes the wali of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah will allow him to hear things for their reality. The things that he hears, Allah will allow him to benefit from those things. You can have, ikhwani, in the khutbatul Jummah, for an example, or a lesson. 100, 200, 3,000, 5,000 people sitting. The khatib gives a khutbah. There are some people who go in there and they come out with nothing. There are other people who hear that same khutbah and his iman is raised up. So the wali, Allah Ta'ala allows his hearing to benefit him. When he hears someone come and he says something that's the truth, he appreciates it and he realizes it's falsehood, Allah allows him to hear it for its reality. And the seeing is the same way. He allows a person to benefit from his eyesight, to protect his eyesight from those things that are going to be a problem for him, and so forth and so on. It does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that the individual becomes one with Allah or Allah becomes one with him. Because as I mentioned, some of the people understood this issue of the wilaya, the awliya, the wrong way. 3 groups. One too far to the right, one too far to the left, and one in the middle. There's a group of people, the Sufi, the people of a Sufiya, who take this hadith of the wali, and they understand from the hadith of the wali that if a person becomes a wali from the awliya of Allah, then he doesn't make any mistakes. Because Allah is his seeing, and Allah is his hearing, and Allah is his hand. Allah strikes for him and he walks. He became like Allah. So he's ma'soom. As a result of that, the Sufis put the wali above the level of the Nabi. They say the lowest level is a Rasul. And then above the Rasul is the Nabi. And then above the Nabi is the wali. And one of their wali, he can do something crazy. But the Nabi, the wali would say, or they believe that the wali, he can clearly do something against the religion. And the murid saw it. And the murid knows with his ignorance, he knows this thing that you did is wrong, it's going against the deen. But the way they teach people is, I'm from the awliya, so I became the seeing and the hearing, Allah and so, and they have this extreme. So those people were extreme. As a result of that, they make dua to those people. As a result of that, they slaughter for those people. As a result of that, they attribute to those people what they don't deserve. That's extreme. The other extreme are those people who a person can be from the Awliya. For an example, as I told you, everyone here, we should struggle and try to be from the Awliya. May Allah make us all from the Awliya. If we can be from the Awliya of Allah, then we have to have husn adhan with the ulama, for an example. If anyone's going to be a wali from the Awliya, then it's going to be a scholar. I am not establishing Sheikh so-and-so as a wali from the Awliya of Allah, because that's speaking about Allah's religion without knowledge. But if anyone was going to be a wali, more than likely it's going to be the ulama, a scholar. So look at the other extreme. When a scholar makes a mistake in his ijtihad, a person may love that scholar. But in the issues of jihad, for an example, ijtihad, the scholar says, I don't see this as being jihad or whatever. Because the person doesn't like that fatwa, he'll take that wali and say, okay, he's no good at all. He's no good. So they go straight. They go to the extreme. That's just an example. Someone like the Anbiya and the Rasul, they are from the Awliya of Allah. The Shia came and they said, no, they're not from the Awliya of Allah. So we have to be in the middle. We have to be balanced. We have to establish and we have to believe in the Awliya of Allah. The prophets and the messengers, all of them are from the Awliya of Allah Azza wa Jal. All of them. And they're ma'soom. As for regular Bani Adam, the prophets, companions, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, radiyallahu anhum ajma'in, they were from the Awliya of Allah. They're the next level after the prophets and the messengers. But they're from the Awliya of Allah, but they are not ma'soom. Before we deal with that though, I want to, inshallah, just mention something about the hadith, because it is important, the hadith of the wali. The hadith of the wali, ikhwani, it goes to show from the characteristics of Allah Azza wa Jalla and what he does, is that Allah declares war against people. And Allah will wage war against people. Because that hadith said, anyone who is in opposition and he's fighting a wali for my awliya, I've declared war against that individual. And if Allah declares war against an individual, you know it's a major sin. So from the kaba'ir is to be in opposition to someone who is a wali from the awliya of Allah. Because the recompense of it, the reward of it, the jaza, thawab of it is al-harb min Allah. He mentioned in the Quran concerning riba, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah wa dharu ma baqiya min al-riba in kuntum mu'minin fa in lam taf'alu fa'dhanu biharbin min Allahi wa rasulihi. O you who believe, fear Allah and give up your desire to devour, to take interest. If you're really believers, verily, if you don't give up that desire to take interest, then beware that Allah has declared war against those people who do that. So that helps us to know that interest is a major crime. So the point here is, from Allah's characteristics is that he declares war. Abdullah bin Abbas radiyallahu anhu said about that ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah about interest. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah is going to be said to the individual who died and he was taking usury, go and get your weapons and fight against Allah Azza wa Jal. So Allah declares war on people, and also people declare war against Allah. In Syria, the Syrian regime has declared war against Allah Azza wa Jal. The Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they declare war against Allah. The Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Ya'juj and Ma'juj are going to kill everybody on the earth, with the exception of Isa ibn Maryam, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the believers who are with Isa ibn Maryam. But Isa ibn Maryam, he won't have the ability or the power to fight against Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So what is he going to do? He's going to go the other way and make hijrah and take those people up on a mountain where they're going to be safe. Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they're going to say amongst themselves, we have annihilated, that we killed everybody on the earth. So now let us turn our attention to those who are in the heavens and let us kill them. At that point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to destroy them. So the point is, people declare war against Allah, and Allah declares war against the people. And the declaration of war that Allah ta'ala declares the people, it's not like some mubaraza where they're going to have a duel. Clearly, Allah ta'ala is al-Qawi, and he is above the people in might and power. It is a threat telling people, don't do this particular thing. And from those things that would guarantee a person's destruction is being in opposition to the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith of the wali is, well, ikhwani, important issue about it is, if a person wants to become a wali from the awliya of Allah, then he has to do the fara'id. He has to do what's wajib. He has to do the 5 prayers every day. He has to give zakat. He has to make hajj. Those things that are wajib, he has to do. We say that these people of a tasawwuf, they're not from the awliya of Allah. I can't sit here and say that this sheikh or that sheikh from the good ulama is a wali from the awliya. I can't say that because they're speaking about Allah's religion without any knowledge. But with knowledge, I can say that that man who came here from West Africa, he's not from the awliya of Allah because he's spreading shirk and kufr. The hadith said that the slave gets close to Allah by doing the fara'id. He's getting close to Allah by doing kufr and shirk, by spreading khurafat, by spreading bid'ah. This is not, it won't be accepted. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Anyone who chooses other than Islam, and what Islam says is the truth and the religion, then it won't be accepted from him. Person doing kufr and shirk, his deeds are going to be rendered null and void. Also, people want to make jihad that's fasad and fitna. The IS of Iraq and other people who think like that are blowing up and killing people. Boko Haram, Qaeda, people like this. The Shabab of Somalia. These people understand killing innocent people is jihad, and you're going to get close to Allah Azza wa Jal by killing those people. You can't be from the awliya of Allah doing what's haram like that. The way a person becomes a wali from the awliya of Allah is getting close to Allah by doing the wajibat. And number 2, doing a lot of nawafil. And we found, ikhwani, that even the practicing Muslims, Salafi and non-Salafi, the practicing Muslims, from whatever group that they're from, the practicing Muslims, a lot of times we have ghurur. We are like impressed with ourselves. A person of Ahlul Hadith, he should try to do more of the nawafil, fasting Thursday and Friday, praying the nawafil connected to the 5 prayers. Many of us, we don't have a lot of ibadat. But we look at ourselves and our cronies, and we look at each other as being thaqat. We look at each other as being, we're the ones. I'm talking about us. I'm not talking about somebody else. But that is something that, hey, the people of the sunnah of the past, that nawafil, those people were upon that issue of doing the nawafil. That's one of the ways that a person can become a wali from the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Laysa, not by just sitting down and just merely making a shi'ar, a slogan. We're the thaqat, we're the salafis, the haqq is with, not like that. Statements and words are important. They're part of iman. You have to say la ilaha illallah. You have to say things. You have to read the Quran. You have to do things with your tongue. But again, the actions, they speak louder than words. So concerning this hadith of the wali, it is one of those hadith that is from the Jawami' al-Kalim, and that's why Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala put it in his book. Now concerning this issue of the awliya, Allah ta'ala, he has awliya, and also a shaitan, he has awliya. Allah ta'ala mentioned many ayat that established the shaitan, he has awliya. He said in the Quran with قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا. And remember when Allah said to the angels, bow down to Adam, they all bowed down. إِلَّا Iblis, except Iblis, he didn't bow down. كَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ. He was from the jinn, so he disobeyed the command of his Lord. And then Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the ayat to Bani Adam, أَفَتَتَّخِذُونَهُ وَذُرِّيَّتُهُ أَوْلِيَاءَ مِن دُونِي وَهُمْ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ. Do you, Bani Adam, take Iblis and his progeny? Do you take Iblis and his progeny as awliya instead of me? And he's a clear open enemy to you? So that ayat establishes that people take a shaitan as a wali. People not only take shaitan, but his dhurriya, his progeny, the shayateen from the jinn and other than that. People take them as protectors, as their awliya. So they are the awliya of a shaitan, and they do the bidding of a shaitan. So many ayats are giving us that understanding. ذَلِكُمْ الشَّيْطَانِ يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ وَخَافُونِي إِن كُنْتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Verily, that is a shaitan who strikes fear in his awliya. Again, a shaitan, he has awliya. So don't be afraid of the awliya of a shaitan, but be afraid of me, Allah, if you're truly believers. So there are many, many ayahs, ikhwani, many ayahs that establish that those people who spread shirk and kufr, they fight in the cause and the way of a shaitan. Allah Ta'ala mentioned that in the Quran, that the people who believe, يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا يُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ الطَّاغُوتِ فَقَاتِلُوا أَوْلِيَاءَ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّ كَيْدَ الشَّيْطَانِ كَانَ ضَعِيفًا. Those people believe, they fight in the cause of Allah to spread the haqq and the truth. And those people who disbelieve, they fight in the cause of a shaitan. They fight in the cause of the taghut. So all of you believers should fight the awliya of a shaitan, because the plan of a shaitan is always weak, is frivolous, is da'if. So those people who spread mischief and they make fasad and they make fitna and they spread amongst the people shirk and kufr, it's not permissible to think and to believe or to perceive them as being the awliya. As we mentioned, the awliya of Allah Azza wa Jalla, the saints of Allah, the friends of Allah, are those individuals who have the proper iman, and it could be anybody. And they also have a taqwa. From the wajibat, the actions and the deeds that an individual can do to become from the awliya of Allah, as I was mentioning before in the hadith of the wali, is that it's the wajibat that get people close to Allah. The best fard, the best wajib, if you want to get close to Allah, the best one is through the salah. There's nothing better than that. If you know a person who's not praying, wallahi, he can't be from the awliya of Allah. If you want to struggle and strive, make jihad to be from the awliya of Allah or on their way, then the best way to do that is the salah. I don't say from the best ways, the best way. After tawheed, the best way is the salat. It's the most important physical action that you can do to become from the awliya of Allah. Abdullah bin Mas'ud said that a man came and asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, what is the most beloved deeds to Allah? The hadith of the wali said, the slave will not continue to do the nawafil until I love him. And if I love him, then I become his hand, his eyes, his feet, and so forth and so on. What is the best deed that Allah loves? The Prophet, he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as-salat ala waqtiha, making salat at his right time. Allah loves that, and he loves that the slave would do it. In Surah Al-Alaq, one of the ayahs of the Quran, where we are commanded, encouraged to make sajda, in Surah Al-Alaq, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, towards the end of the surah, Allah Ta'ala said, wasjud waqtarib. Make sajda, make salat, and you'll get close to Allah. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, aqrabu ma yakun al-abd min rabbihi wa huwa sajid. The closest that the slave is to his Lord, the closest that the slave is to his Lord is when he's in sajda. And the sajda here is talking about the salat. So anyone who wants to be a wali from the awliya of Allah, then let him be of those people who make the salat. Let him be of those people who make the 5 wajibat. They make the Jummah prayer, which is wajibah, and they make the 2 Eid, which is wajib, and also they do the nawafil connected to that. Al-istikhara, ad-duha, the 2 rak'ahs of al-fajr, and other than that, going into the house, all of those things that the Prophet used to do, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Also from the wajibat, ikhwani, that will get a person close to Allah, and I remind you of this, is being fair and just. Being a person who's fair and just. Not being a person who is oppressive. When things go against your friend, you're not fair, you're not just. The Muslim is accountable for being a person who stands out for justice, whether it's against him or for him, against the closest people to him, his masjid or other than that. Authentic hadith, the Nabi described the situation that's going to happen Yawm al-Qiyamah, and he said, Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, Inna al-muqsitin indallahi ala manabir min nur, ala yamin al-Rahman, wa kilta yadayhi yamin, alladhina ya'diluna fi hukmihim wa ahlihim wa ma wallu. Verily the people who are muqsitin. The muqsit is the one who is fair and just. He's fair. Like during the time of the companions of jihad that they used to do. Their jihad. Allah told those companions, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. Ya Muhammad, Allah has not prevented you. He has not prohibited you from being fair and just and to deal kindly with those kuffar of Quraysh, the mushrikun, who do not expel you because of your religion like Quraysh. They don't fight against you because of your religion like Quraysh. These people were fighting you. Allah did not prevent you from being kind and just with them and fair. And Allah loves the muqsiteen. So in the hadith he said that the fair and the just people, they would be on mimbars. The mimbar, like in a masjid, pulpits made of light. And they would be on the right side of Ar-Rahman. They would be on mimbars close to Allah. My slave would not do what is wajib except he gets close to me. So what's wajib? To be fair and just. Like salat, it'll put the person close to Allah. And they'll be upon mimbars made of light. And the mimbars will be on the right of Ar-Rahman. And the Prophet said, and both of Allah's hands are right hands. And he went on to mention, they're the people who when they give a ruling, they're fair and just. And they're fair and just amongst their family members. They have an issue with their wife and their mother. They know how to balance that out. They know when to be on the wife's side, when to be on the mother's side, how to be on the wife's side, how to be on the mother's side. They have children. They know. They're fair between the boys and the girls, the eldest and the youngster. Just the people in general. So the point here, Ikhwani, and the shahid of all that kalam is that the wali of Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who is doing what's wajib. And there are many things to do that's wajib. Whatever is a wajib from the wajibat will get you close to Allah, and thus it's a sabil to becoming a wali. And added to that is doing the ziyada of the nawafil. The ziyada of salat, som, sadaqah, hajj, umrah, whatever you could possibly think of in the religion. Like the niqab, the individual doesn't feel like the niqab is wajib. He doesn't have to do it. But if the lady puts on the niqab, it's her jihad and it's her attempt and her way of saying, I'm going to do this extra thing from the nawafil. Because Allah said, my slave doesn't do the nawafil more and more and more and more until because of that, I love him and so forth and so on. So the last thing that we want to mention concerning, inshallah, the issue of the awliya is that the awliya is not based upon people's desires. The Sufis, they said, Ikhwani, that people who are majnoon are from the awliya of Allah. Someone who's majnoon, he's a wali. So if someone is walking down Coventry Road, as we see, and he lost his mind, and he's speaking in tongues, they will look at an individual, and instead of looking at him weird, like many normal people would say, okay, watch out, don't go too close to him, the Sufi would say, mashallah, look, he's a wali from the awliya of Allah. The Sufis believe that this little kid right here is a wali from the awliya of Allah. That kid ain't no wali. He may grow up to be a wali, inshallah. He may grow up. He may grow up. But right now, the Prophet mentioned, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rufi al-qalam an thalath. The pen has been raised off of 3 people. There's no pen on that kid. And that's why he's walking around, no one saying anything to him, because he doesn't know. So the wali is the one who has iman and taqwa. The little kid, he has no iman, he has no taqwa. Taqwa meaning he knows what he's doing. The majnoon, he doesn't have any iman, no taqwa. He doesn't know what he's doing. So we don't go overboard and we don't go astray like that. The awliya, the people who they have their uqul, they have aql. And based upon that aql, they do what Allah Ta'ala made wajib for them and upon them, and they do a lot of the nawafil. As for them being ma'soom, this is not the case. And we know that because the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, as we mentioned, they were from the awliya, but they made mistakes. They made mistakes. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar, Uthman, Ali, they made ijtihad in fiqh. They made ijtihad in fiqh. And in their ijtihad, sometimes they made mistakes and other companions corrected them. The position of the companions was the correct one and theirs was wrong. No one's going to argue about that. Some of the other companions, they did certain sins that caused the had, capital punishment, to be established upon them. And they're all awliya. So the wali, a person who's a wali, if he's not a nabi or rasul, it doesn't mean or imply that he's ma'soom. So if a person happens to be a wali from the shuyukh, from the ulama, from the ubad, from the salihin, from the muttaqeen, we don't go overboard and say that that person is occupying a station that is higher than the prophets and the messengers. And based upon the hadith of the wali, Allah Azza wa Jal has come inside of him. And this hadith shows al-hulul. Allah is one with the awliya and the awliya one with Allah Azza wa Jal. That's not understanding the hadith with the intent that the Prophet ﷺ explained it. So we understand these issues ala maradillah. And we understand these issues ala marad Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The way Allah wanted it to be understood. The way the Prophet wanted it to be understood. So we're going to stop here, inshallah azza wa jal. And if you brothers have any questions concerning what we mentioned today, you can put your question forward. Tafaddalu. Aywa, tafadda ya akhi Bilal. Is it conceivable that Allah Azza wa Jal would allow two of his awliya to fight? Nah, it's conceivable. It's conceivable. And the proof of that is with the companions, radiyallahu anhum. And the proof of that is that after the death of the Nabi and during his life, some of the companions used to have arguments. Abu Bakr and Umar, they argued with each other. Different times during the course of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But obviously, their arguments never went into the realm of cursing, swearing, and abusing. It's just natural. After the death, the awliya of Allah from the companions, from the side of Ali, fought the awliya of Allah from the side of Muawiyah. So now the question is, what's the hikmah in that? There's many hikmahs in that. One hikmah is it goes to show that the prophets and the messengers are on a higher level, because it never happened where the prophets and the messengers were fighting. The awliya with the prophets and the messengers. Even Musa, when he came and he grabbed his brother's lihya, he grabbed it because he thought his brother had something to do with Bani Israel worshiping the thing. But they weren't fighting like that. But the people were lesser degree than the prophets and the messengers, the awliya, although they're awliya, they still can have some drama between themselves. Another benefit of that, ikhwani, is it teaches us, it's that those mistakes that those companions had made, radiyallahu anhum, the fact that it shows us what to do and what not to do. We look at those other companions who didn't get involved, so they become the ones who are the example, the qudwa. And also, with the ones who had got involved, it's a benefit. How? It's a benefit because it's a fitna. It's a test. During the khilaf of Ali, when that fitna was taking place, Ali sent his son Hassan and he sent Ammar ibn Yasir to Iraq, because that's where the drama was. He sent them from Medina to Iraq. They went into the masjid of the Iraqiyin who were agitated and they wanted to fight against Ali with Muawiyah and them. Hassan is the son of Ali. He gets on the top step on the minbar, and Ammar ibn Yasir got on the bottom step, and between them was one step. And Hassan began to talk. One of the two began to talk, and he said, "Hey, people of Iraq, Aisha, they're against Aisha. Aisha is a fitna. She's a test for you. She's from the people of Al-Jannah, and she's the Prophet's wife. They supported Aisha. They wanted to fight Ali with Aisha. So they said, Aisha is a test. She's a fitna for you. She's the wife of the Nabi and she's in Jannah. But with her, Allah is testing you. Do you obey Allah and His Messenger, or do you obey her? So that was a fitna. So those companions fighting is also a test. It's a test. Some people fell in the test by getting in there and saying bad things about the whole group, or bad things about Ahlul Bayt, or bad things about the people who are against Ahlul Bayt. As for the person who passes the test, he's the one who says, رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. The dua that the people say for the people who went before. Oh Allah, forgive us and forgive our brothers who preceded us in Iman. And don't put in our hearts any animosity or enmity towards those who believe, towards those believers. So there are a number of benefits from that issue. Allah does what He wants to do. Any more questions, Ikhwani? Any more questions out there? Yusuf, you have something? No? Okay, then inshallah we're going to stop here next week. Bidhnillah. I don't know what the schedule is, but we encourage you to try to start bringing a person or two out. I think every week we should try to bring someone out so that we'll be able to spread our dawah more. The other thing is, Ikhwani, one of the brothers who attends our program here, he has a son, a young son. His name is Isa. Isa has some medical issues, some challenges, some stuff that's going on with him right now. I want to ask you brothers and you sisters not to forget Isa in your dua, that you ask Allah Ta'ala to give him the complete and the exact shifa for his situation, and also for all of the Muslims. But I'm not saying just right now you say that, but I'm saying always remember that kid and the Muslims who are sick, because they are in need of our dua. And as I mentioned, the dua of the wali, Allah said, وَلَئِن سَأَلَنِي لَأُعْطِيَنَّهُ. If he asks me for something, I'll give it to him. If he asks me for something, I'll give it to him. So if we put the wilaya only with certain people, and it's not for everyone to race to be a wali, then we are cheating ourselves. Because now none of those people are here, those special people. They're not here with us. And we need dua for Isa. We need dua, and we look at ourselves as being unworthy. We're not awliya. No, someone could be a wali in here. But you have to be careful about thinking, I'm a wali. Don't walk around like that. Wallahi, I'm a wali. Don't be like that. Struggle, strive, try to be a wali, and don't think that you can't be a wali. The Mahdi of the Sunnah. The Prophet said about him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yuslihu Allah fi laylatin wahida. Allah will rectify his situation in one night. Al-Imam ibn Kathir, the Hafiz, Al-Imam Abu Fida Ismail ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he said about this hadith in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, he said that the meaning of this hadith, according to Ahlul Hadith, is the Mahdi is not always going to be a practicing person. He's not always going to be a religious person, but in one night, Allah will change his situation. Umar radiallahu anhu, he wasn't always from the Awliya of Allah. He wasn't always from them. And then he became from the A'zam Awliya of Allah Ta'ala, min dun al-anbiya wa rasul, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'in, wa ala ashabin nabiyyi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. هذا ونسأل الله تعالى أن يوفقنا وإياكم لما يحب ويرضى. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.